way that I like to play fantasy football is that I'm swinging for the fences, man. I want to try to get those league-winning wide receivers, ones that can hit the magical 20 PPR points per game, just like Jamar Chase last year, just like CeeDee Lamb the year before. And I think that the best way to do that is to look at all the previous 20 PPR points per game wide receivers, find those common denominators. What did their profile look like? What did they do previously in their career? So that we can try to gamify this. We can try to be nerds about this. So to do this, I put on my best short sleeve button down. I grabbed my calculator and I got freaky in the Google Sheets. And for those league-winning wide receivers, Ryan Heath did the deep research. Ryan Heath wrote an article called The Anatomy of a League Winner. It's one of the best ones in the offseason. I've been referencing it in a lot of my videos previously. And there's a chart in this article that's the percent of players drafted in each round to become league winners, right? We're fishing for league winners. We're trying to look for them. Before we even create the profile of what it looks like, we want to know where they exist, right? Where we can best draft them. And for wide receivers, we see that rounds 1 and 2 are the best. But there's still some value, man, through round 7, and there's even some in round 11, right? So, all right, cool. So we know that rounds 1 and 2 are your best bet, and then it starts to diminish as you get closer to round 6. There's a big gap, and then a little bit later, you can find a couple. So now that we know where we can find them, we know that rounds 1 and 2 are the best shots to get them. Let's start from the top. Let's create a profile of what a league-winning wide receiver looks like. You guys got to bear with me, man. This is good shit, dude. I promise. If you close that Pornhub tab that you guys have open, focus in for like 5 minutes, man. You guys will be laughing to the bank with your fantasy winnings. I think this video will really help you, man. It's one of the more important videos that I think I've created. I'm Ron from Never Lucky Fantasy Football, guys. Welcome to the channel. Let's get straight into this. So we want to find that 20 point per game wide receiver. So I went back to the last 7 seasons and I grabbed all of them. And I grabbed their targets, receptions, touchdowns, yards per game, catch percent. I grabbed a ton of different metrics, man, that we can look at. And I see that there's a big range across the board, man. But some of the metrics where there seems to be like some condensed data is targets per game. So all of them seem to hit that 10 targets per game threshold. They all hit the PFF grade of 85 plus. They all have the passed yards per route run, meaning are they efficient when they're running routes? How many yards do they get per route that they're running? It's a very good efficiency metric that we know that, they're actually getting production when they're out there running routes. And then previous points per game was another one, man. All of the wide receivers who hit 20 have previously hit 16. There's very few exceptions to that. You got like Deebo Samuel with that weird 2021. Everyone else is over 16, man. Like I see Adam Thielen here, he hit 15. So for the most part, we want to see that 16 point per game previous. We want the yards per out run. We want the PFF grade so that they're actually a good wide receiver, and we want volume. Those are like the 4 metrics that predict 20 point per game production. So what I did is I went and I looked at 2024. I grabbed all the players and I pulled their PFF grades from 2024, their points per game, yards per out run, and their targets per game. And we have a short list, man. These are all the players that have hit at least 16 points per game in 2024. You could do 2023 as well, which I did do, but I decided to leave it out because I think we're the most accurate if we can just look at the last season to help us figure out the next season, right? Because less things have changed usually. So looking at this PFF chart, man, we see that a couple of wide receivers are right on the threshold of a lot of these different metrics. Jamar Chase obviously already did it. He's got the 85.8 PFF grade. He's got the 23 points per game already. He's got the 2.5 yards per run, and he's got the 10 targets a game. Obvious league winner. He's the #1 overall player. This one is obvious. Justin Jefferson as well. 86.8, 18.68 previous points per game, 2.69 yards per out run, 9.1 targets per game. Obvious. CeeDee Lamb, he already did it, so we know that he can do it again. He just had a down year because he was injured. Dak was injured. But it starts to get interesting, man, when we look at some of these other players. Let me zoom it in for you guys so you guys can see. I'm trying to teach you guys how to fish here, man. So Chris Godwin, surprisingly, last year hit every metric we want. 86 PFF, 19.6 points per game, 2.5 yards per out run, 8.9 targets per game. He wasn't at that 10 targets per game, but he was, I'm willing to look past that. The problem with Chris Godwin moving forward is that he's dealing with an injury. He's going to be hobbled, right? He's like dislocated his foot in like 6 different ways. So he has more target competition now. So I don't expect his targets to go up. So when we're kind of when we're fishing for this player, they don't have to hit every benchmark, because there are players who become league winners when they haven't had their targets before, because their targets then rise the next season, right? So targets, we're willing to kind of like play context and look at the situation of the team and kind of try to predict what's going to happen in the future. Amon-Ra St. Brown is kind of the first name that I highlighted in red here, where he hits the PFF grade, he hit the previous high, he hit the yards per out run, but his target volume at 8.3 is something that I don't think is actually going to rise. I don't think his situation has gotten better for him. Jahmyr Gibbs further cemented. Sam Laporta, a mainstay target competition for him. Jamison Williams, also mainstay target competition. From weeks like 10 and on last year for the Detroit Lions, there was kind of an evening out between the targets between Laporta, Jameson, and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Gibbs. Like Amon-Ra St. Brown's targets started to go down a little bit while the rest of the guys started to go up because they got more situated, they got more involved, the team was passing the ball a lot more. Now here's the thing, man. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think we've seen his ceiling. I think Jamison Williams having another season of, I mean, we're drafting him in like the 5th round. So if we're drafting Jamison Williams in the 5th round, is Amon-Ra going to be able to hit that 10 targets per game yet again? I think Jamison's going to be equally involved. I think he's going to get his 8 targets. Amon-Ra's going to get his 8 to 9. And I don't know if he's going to be able to hit that legendary 20 point per game. I think he's a very safe pick. He's a great pick in the 1st round. But if you want that like higher upside, man, I don't know if he can hit it. I think this Detroit Lions team wants to run the ball. They're going to be trying to run the ball more than they're going to be throwing. Last year was just a weird fluky season where at the end of the year, Jared Goff was throwing the ball like 35 times a game. I don't think that's going to repeat. T. Higgins is another one that I highlighted where he hit the 18. He's got the 88 PFF. He's got the 2.13 yards per hour run, so not ideal, but he's hovering at 9.1 targets per game. This is an offense where it's Chase and Higgins. Gesicki gets his couple targets, fucking all these tertiary pieces like Yoshivas gets his shit. But for the most part, man, it's Higgins and Chase. I think Higgins has a chance for 20 points per game, but I wouldn't put too much stake on it. I wouldn't give it like a huge, massive chance, but it's something that we have to look at, man, because this is going to be a Bengals team that did not improve their defense. I imagine them being a very pass-heavy team yet again with a bad defense in shootouts, playing from behind. Hopefully they're not off to the same slow start, or hopefully, I mean, for fantasy football, it's probably a good thing if the team struggles early and they're just fighting for the playoffs because they were just throwing the ball like crazy. Then we have Malik Neighbors. He hits every threshold and then some. 86 PFF, 18.4 PPR points per game, 2.3 yards per out run, and 11.3 targets per game. Not much needs to be said about him. He gets an upgrade at quarterback. I can imagine his targets per game maybe staying the same, maybe going down slightly, but I think his ADOT will be higher. I think his touchdowns will be higher. I think Malik Neighbors is a clear 20 point per game candidate. I think he's one of the more affordable ones because you can get him usually at the end of the 1st round. I love him there. CeeDee Lamb, again, poor PFF grade last year. I think it's due to injury. 17.5 points per game, 2.37 yards per out run, and 10 targets. He's across the board, very safe, another league-winning candidate. And now we get into the spicy ones, man. We got Nico Collins. Doesn't really get there on the targets. Only 8.3 targets per game. Unfortunately for Nico Collins, he's very efficient with the smaller target share that he does get. He was injured last season, so that could explain why. But in terms of PFF grades, there are very few wide receivers that are better than him. I think I skipped Puka Nacua as well, but let's do Puka Nacua. He's the one that jumps out from the screen. 92.5 PFF grade. 18.7 points per game in PPR, 3.61 yards per out run, and a 9.6 targets per game. He's on the cusp when it comes to targets. Now he has some more target competition. He's got Devontae Adams. That's a little bit concerning. As we saw with Cooper Kupp in 2021, I mean, he had Robert Woods there, right? So I think Puka Nacua with Devontae Adams is a very similar type of situation where Puka is still the main guy. He could still get the Triple Crown this season. Devontae Adams is still going to be very productive. He's going to get his stuff. But I think we shouldn't be too concerned about Devontae Adams because as we see Devontae down here, in 2024, he had only a 75.8 PFF grade, man. He hit the 17 points per game. He hit the 2.14 yards per out run, and he had the 10 targets a game. So at a glance, Devontae Adams seems like, all right, dude, he can probably repeat. But to me, what this shows me is that he was getting massive volume, but wasn't doing too much with it, right? On 10 targets a game, 17 PPR points per game, 75.8 PFF grade is not ideal. I think he was just being peppered with targets by Aaron Rodgers, and it wasn't really yielding that much production. While Puka Nacua with the PFF grade, with the yards per out run, at that volume, he's going to be so much better than Devontae Adams, and I think the team's going to figure it out. I love Devontae Adams. I think he's going to be great for us, for the Rams, but in terms of fantasy football, I don't think you should be worried about Puka Nacua. I think he's like the best shot outside of Jamar Chase to get that 20 point per game in PPR. I really do think that. I think it goes Jamar Chase, it goes Puka Nacua, and then obviously you have your Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Nico Collins, like these other guys who, if their volume goes up and if their quarterback play remains high, then I can see them getting there. Now we move into kind of like the second bucket, like your second round picks. You got Mike Evans, where I don't think he's going to have the target volume at 7.9 targets per game. I just don't think he's going to be able to get there. I think he's going to hover around 15 fantasy points a game. He's getting old. He's like 32 years old. I don't know if he's going to be able to hit that again, guys. I think Mike Evans, this is the year you might want to be fading him, in my opinion. I think Brian Thomas Jr. is another one where Everybody is super excited about Brian Thomas Jr. Everybody's saying he's got league winner potential all over him. Here's my concern, bro. 82 PFF grade. All right, that's 80 plus. We're okay with that. But 16 points per game, 2.68 yards per out run, fantastic. But 7.8 targets per game, he's not going to get there. He needs to get to that 10 targets per game. He needs that massive volume so that his production can hit the 20 points per game, right? That's the issue with these types of things, is that you need a combination of being good, being efficient, and getting the volume. And I don't think Brian Thomas is going to get more volume this year with Travis Hunter now in the mix. I think it's definitely possible. I think Travis Hunter could be the underneath guy. Brian Thomas could be the over-the-top guy. If he hits some touchdown variants, and if Brian Thomas gets like 10 touchdowns, I think he will hit the 20 point per game. I just think it's kind of a far shot. It's kind of a far shot with Trevor Lawrence coming back from injury, with this team having kind of a lot of weapons, if you think about it. They got Travis Hunter, they got Brian Thomas Jr., they got Travis Etienne, they have Tank Bigsby, they have Baishal Tootin, who's going to be a weapon for them. So I don't know if there's just going to be enough volume for Brian Thomas. I think if he's your second wide receiver and you're shooting for upside, for sure, man. Like if you're going to go wide receiver, or if you're going running back in the first round and you're looking for a wide receiver in the second, Brian Thomas is definitely one of the better picks that you can get. But he's not as good as the next guy, which is Drake London, man. 87.8 PFF, 16 points per game, 2.5 yards per out run, and 9.3 targets, bro. He hits every single metric. At the end of the year, when Michael Penix stepped in, his target share actually rose. He had one game where he had like 17 targets, I believe, or 19 targets. It was insane. So Michael Penix really hones in on Drake London. So I think he's going to hit this for sure, man. I think the fact that he's being drafted like in the middle of the second round sometimes is insane. I think he's the clear second round league winning wide receiver, in my opinion. And then we have AJ Brown, 90 PFF, 16 points per game, 3.45 yards per out run. AJ Brown on a per route, per target basis is insane. He just doesn't get the targets, bro. 7.5 targets per game is not going to get it done. If he can get that 10 target per game season, if Devontae Smith gets injured, if Saquon Barkley looks a little bit slower, looks a little bit hobbled, maybe they have a tougher schedule, they have to throw the ball a little bit more. Maybe Jalen Hurts just really hones in on AJ Brown. He can maybe get there, but it's going to be tough, bro. From 7.5 targets a game to 10 is going to be tough for AJ Brown. I just don't see it happening. I think as a wide receiver one with safety, he's got a nice floor where he's going to be like a top 12 guy. AJ Brown is somebody that I love clicking on. It's just keep in mind, bro, that you're not going to get that league winning season out of him. I don't think you're going to get that 20 point per game season. You're going to get close. You're going to get 16 points per game, which is definitely fine. He could definitely help you win some games. But those are the guys in the first two rounds, man. Rashee Rice, this is another tough one where he hits it in most metrics, but he lacks the targets also. Xavier Worthy, another season of being involved, of showing us that he can be a legit piece in this offense. Travis Kelce is still around there. Now, I will say, man, for Rashee Rice, because of the suspension, the league is pushing for 10 games of suspension. I think it's going to be very tough to draft Rashee Rice, knowing that that's what they're gunning for. But on a per game basis, Rashee Rice is going to be fantastic. I don't know how many games we're going to get out of him. I don't know if we can, pull the trigger on drafting him. He's still kind of expensive in my opinion. And then we have this next bucket of wide receivers. I was going to close this video out, but I figured let me just cover them quickly. You have your Terry McLaurin, who is at 15.8 PPR points per game. He's kind of a little bit low on the yards per out run, and then 6.9 targets per game. It's just not going to get it done. But if you're shooting for like some ceiling, some upside, the PFF grade is there. The points per game is almost there. Yards per out run, not ideal. I think Terry McLaurin is somebody that I probably am going to be fading. Devontae Smith is one where, again, man, metrics across the board, you're just not going to get there in volume. He's going to be fine. He's going to get you 14, 15 fantasy points per game, which is definitely fine for a wide receiver too. But if you're shooting for upside, if you're looking for the guy who's got the like league winning potential, that's one I'd stay away from. Stephon Diggs, man, he's fucking 93 years old. I'm not even going to talk about that one. Ladd McConkey's a very interesting one. 84 PFF, 15 points per game, 2.59 yards per out run, 7 targets per game. Can he hit 10? Maybe. There's a couple more weapons now with the Chargers. They are a run-first team. I think it's going to be tough for Ladd McConkey to kind of improve on this. He might have hit his ceiling last year. I think he can definitely be more consistent. Last year, he wasn't very consistent early in the season. Really popped off at the end, and that kind of skewed his averages. But he's someone that's very interesting if you're going for like somebody at the back end of the second round. I think he's got a shot. I just don't know if he's going to get there with the volume. Garrett Wilson already had the volume, but he was nowhere near. He didn't even get the 16 points per game threshold, 78 PFF grade. I think he's a very talented wide receiver. I think you can blame Aaron Rodgers for this poor yards per out run, the poor production and the poor PFF grade. It's possible, but those are some red flags, man. I'm a little bit concerned about that. We then have JSN, which is another one that's interesting. Just doesn't really get there on the yards per out run or on the production. But, you know, everything else is okay. 8.1 targets per game. Can he improve on that? I don't know with Cooper Kupp now in town. I think he could. I think Jason's one of those guys that could jump up into the 10 targets per game. And if he does, I do think he's going to hit that 16 point per game threshold. And then we're going to be loving him the next season. Josh Downs is one that I very much love. I'm very big on him. He misses on the points per game and he misses on the targets, obviously. But PFF grade, he's a very talented wide receiver. Yards per out run, very good, very efficient with the targets he does get. Now, Daniel Jones is in town, bro. I wanted to highlight this. Daniel Jones, lowest ADOT quarterback in the NFL, meaning per throw, lowest average depth of target. He's throwing underneath. Wan'Dale Robinson last year was fucking insane. He had like 140 targets, man. Josh Downs is going to be the slot wide receiver. He's going to be the Wan'Dale Robinson for this team, man. I am very excited about Josh Downs. If he's going to continue to be very good when it comes to his efficiency and his PFF grades at just talent as a wide receiver, I think if you bump up Josh Downs' targets to 10, somehow, if he can get to 10, I think he's going to hit that 16 or 17 fantasy points per game. I think he's one of the better late round picks where he's set up for success with Daniel Jones now in town. He's just going to get more volume, more easy targets, more easy yardage, underneath stuff where he can create after the catch. Josh Downs is one of my favorite picks. Juwan Jennings as well, man. 7.5 targets per game is not going to get it done. 2.26 yards per out run, 14 points per game, and 83 PFF grade. A very solid player, a very solid pick. He's only contending with Ricky Pearsall for targets at the moment. Brandon Ayuk's probably not going to play. So Juwan Jennings is one of my favorite late round picks as well. And then we finish this list with George Pickens. 78.6 PFF grade. We don't love that. 11 points per game, but he hits the 2.1 yards per out run and he hits the 7.4 targets per game. He's with a better team. He's with a better offense that's going to be passing the ball quite a lot with Dak Prescott. I think he can improve on everything across the board. I think his PFF grade will be improved with CeeDee Lamb now being kind of taking the best defender from every team. Obviously, he can see a little bit more touchdown luck, so his points per game should go up. His yards per out run could be better as he's going to be the deep threat guy pretty much exclusively. And then targets per game, I don't know if he can get there, but I think he could hit some crazy touchdown numbers or maybe even some like depth of target numbers. And that's why I think George Pickens is somebody that I just had to highlight. Obviously, the PFF grade is a little bit concerning. That was a mouthful, man. I hope you guys liked that video, bro. I hope you guys got some value out of it. I wanted to talk about the dudes who I think have league winning potential. Guys, I'm going to be targeting. Tried to give you some names throughout the draft, but with a focus on the early down guys, obviously. I know I was kind of all over the place, like going up and down the list, but hopefully it helps, man. Hopefully it gives you a glimpse into how I kind of create my thesis around these players. I'm not just pulling the shit out of my ass and just, you know, fall in love with a player for no reason. I'm looking at the data. I'm then combining it with context and with real life shit. Give me a like if you did enjoy it. Subscribe if you want to see more of this stuff looking forward. And I'll catch you guys in the next one.